Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Sometimes the heart knows before the mind does. He may not say it, but his unconscious already did. These words from Carl Jung are not only a reflection on human behavior, but a profound insight into how we love, often without realizing it. Love doesn't always arrive with a grand confession or dramatic gesture. Sometimes it shows up quietly, in ways that escape words. A man may not say, "I love you," but if you pay attention, his unconscious will. Jung believed that much of what we feel and do is driven by forces beneath our awareness, deep emotions, fears, and desires that live in the unconscious mind. When a man truly cares, those hidden layers begin to express themselves, not through planned words, but through subtle actions. The way he looks at you when you're not speaking. The way he becomes protective without realizing it. The way he remembers something you said weeks ago. These are not accidents. They are the unconscious mind revealing what the conscious self may not yet admit. In this video, we'll explore 7 powerful unconscious signs that he truly loves you, drawn from Carl Jung's profound understanding of the human psyche. Signs that may seem small, but together, they form a clear message. He's already fallen for you, even if he hasn't found the words to say it. Let's begin. Love doesn't always begin with awareness. In fact, according to Carl Jung, it rarely does. Jung believed that much of what drives our feelings and behaviors lives not in the conscious mind, but in the vast, hidden world of the unconscious. When a man starts to fall in love, it often begins without him realizing it, because something deeper than logic is at work. Jung's concept of the anima, the inner, unconscious feminine image that exists within every man, plays a key role in this process. When a woman resonates with that internal image, it awakens an attraction that isn't born from thought, but from instinct. That's why love, especially in its early stages, tends to reveal itself not in declarations, but in subtle, involuntary behavior. A man might not say he loves you, but if you watch closely, his unconscious already has. One of the earliest signs is something so small it often goes unnoticed. He starts mirroring you without realizing it. His body picks up on your movements. His tone shifts to match yours. His gestures begin to reflect your own. This isn't intentional. It's a deep, automatic response, one supported by scientific studies showing that people who feel emotionally connected tend to unconsciously imitate each other's behavior. Jung would say this mirroring is the psyche's way of recognizing familiarity, of saying, "You belong here." And then there are the little things he remembers. Things you barely recall mentioning. A favorite snack, a passing story. A moment when you felt off, even if you never explained why. He doesn't remember these things because he's trying. He remembers because, unconsciously, you've become important to him. Jung believed the unconscious mind stores what carries emotional meaning, often more faithfully than the conscious mind does. So, when a man is tuned into you, when he remembers details you've long forgotten, it isn't charm, it's not calculation, it's his deeper self paying attention. And even if he hasn't put it into words, even if he hasn't fully grasped it himself, love is already unfolding, quietly, instinctively, and powerfully, beneath the surface. Love doesn't always make a grand entrance. Sometimes it slips in quietly, through the cracks, beneath the surface, in moments that feel ordinary but carry extraordinary weight. Long before it's ever put into words, love often begins to live inside a man through emotion, raw, instinctive, and unspoken. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He believed that the unconscious holds not only our forgotten memories and hidden desires, but also the parts of ourselves we struggle to accept. The shadow, as he called it. And love, perhaps more than anything, threatens to expose that shadow. To admit love is to admit vulnerability, to reveal that someone matters deeply enough to affect us, to shake us. That's why, for many men, the unconscious expresses love long before the conscious mind is ready to face it. Instead of declarations, you'll see it in subtle shifts, in the way he reacts when you're hurt, or the way his energy changes when you walk into the room. One of the clearest signs is the gentle rise of protective instincts. He may not even realize he's doing it, but suddenly, your well-being becomes something he tracks almost intuitively. If you seem off, he notices. If something bothers you, even slightly, he wants to step in, not to take over or play a role, but because something inside him pulls him toward your safety. It's not about being the hero, and it's not performative. It's quiet and sincere. He might soften his tone when you're overwhelmed, offer help without making it a big gesture, or even just stand closer when he senses you're uneasy. These are instinctive acts, the unconscious way of saying, "You matter. I want to protect you," even from the little things. Jung would say this happens because love begins to stir the deeper layers of the self, connecting a man not just to someone else, but to parts of himself he doesn't usually engage with. But protection is just one layer. Another, perhaps even more telling sign, is nervousness. Unexpected, sometimes awkward, often endearing. A man who is generally confident, composed, and self-assured may suddenly seem unsure around you. His voice might catch. His words may stumble. He might avoid eye contact more than usual, or overthink what to say. This isn't lack of confidence. It's emotion pressing up against the wall of the unconscious, looking for a way out. In Jungian terms, this is part of the individuation process, the psychological journey of becoming whole, where the unconscious and conscious self begin to integrate. Love, especially real love, triggers this process. It touches places in him that haven't yet been explored. And so, his calm exterior cracks just a little. Not because he's weak, but because he's feeling something that runs deeper than control. He may not know why he's nervous. He may even feel confused by his own behavior. But the answer is simple. His heart is involved now. And the unconscious, long before his words ever catch up, is already revealing it. The fear of losing you. The hope of being enough. The tension between desire and vulnerability. They all exist below the surface, quietly shaping how he acts when you're near. So, if you find him watching you when he thinks you're not looking, or if he suddenly changes the subject when things get too personal, don't mistake it for disinterest. It's quite the opposite. It's a man standing on the edge of something real, and his unconscious is already taking the first steps, even if his mind hasn't yet followed. There's a moment in every real connection where something shifts, a quiet turning point that doesn't come with grand announcements but carries more weight than any love confession ever could. It's when a man begins to open the door not just to his life but to his inner world. For Carl Jung, this moment is profound. He believed that every person wears a persona, a psychological mask shaped by roles, expectations, and social norms. But behind that mask lives something far more raw and real, the true self, made up of fears, dreams, doubts, longings, the things we often keep hidden even from ourselves. That's why, in Jungian psychology, the act of revealing that inner world to another person isn't just emotional intimacy, it's a symbolic moment of deep trust and psychological vulnerability. When a man begins to fall deeply in love, the unconscious push to connect surpasses the boundaries of surface talk. He doesn't just want to be around you, he begins to want you to know him, not the version he shows to everyone else, but the real one, the one that carries old wounds, private hopes, unfinished questions, and so, slowly, he begins to share pieces of himself he doesn't give away easily. He tells you about the thing that keeps him up at night. He talks about the dream he's been carrying since he was a teenager, or the fear he can't quite explain. These aren't stories for entertainment. They're confessions from the soul, unguarded, unedited. And what makes this so powerful is that most of the time, he doesn't even realize he's doing it. He feels safe with you, not just because you're kind or supportive, but because at some unconscious level, his inner self has already decided you can be trusted. That safety isn't forced. It just happens, like a door slowly opening on its own. And when it does, another quiet transformation begins. He starts to care not just about what you do, but about how you feel. He becomes genuinely curious about your emotions, not out of politeness or habit, but because your inner world matters to him. He notices when something's off. He asks how your day really went, not just the schedule, but the feelings behind it. He listens, not to fix or advise, but to understand. And when you speak, he's not just hearing your words. He's tracking your tone, your pauses, the things you're not saying. Jung might say this is where emotional resonance takes root. When one psyche truly begins to attune to another, it's no longer about roles or impressions, it's about presence. A man in love doesn't just observe your feelings from a distance. He leans in. He remembers what hurts you, what lights you up, what unsettles you in ways even you don't fully articulate. This kind of emotional awareness doesn't come from training or personality type. It comes from care. Deep, unconscious, meaningful care. And that's what makes it so rare. Most people drift through conversations without ever touching the emotional core of the other person. But when a man begins to love you, truly love you, your emotions become part of his internal map. He carries them with him, even when you're not around. He replays things you said. He tries to understand your reactions. Not because he's analyzing you, but because he wants to meet you where you are, beneath the surface. In Jung's view, this is the real threshold of intimacy. Not physical closeness, not declarations of exclusivity, but the slow, sincere unveiling of the true self to someone who feels safe enough to hold it. So when he starts opening up about his fears, when he trusts you with the parts of himself he usually keeps hidden, when he listens to your emotions like they're not only valid, but important, you're not just witnessing affection. You're witnessing depth. You're seeing the unconscious layers of love rise to the surface. And in those moments, even if no one says the words, something undeniable has already been spoken. Sometimes, the loudest form of love is the one that makes no sound at all. It doesn't rush to declare itself, doesn't seek attention, and never demands to be seen. It simply is, steady, quiet, and unmistakably real. Carl Jung understood that the truest parts of the human psyche often express themselves not through words, but through actions born from the unconscious. And when it comes to love, the ultimate expression of depth isn't what someone says, it's what they're willing to give up without needing anything in return. One of the strongest signs that a man loves you, truly, deeply, and perhaps more than even he realizes, is when he begins to make sacrifices quietly. He doesn't announce them. He doesn't ask for gratitude. He doesn't need you to notice. But if you look closely, you'll see the signs. He changes his plans to support you, even when it's inconvenient. He remembers what matters to you and shifts things in his life so you can breathe easier. He shows up when it's not easy. He offers help when you don't ask for it. And he does all of this without pointing to it later, without using it as leverage, without needing recognition to validate the gesture. This kind of sacrifice isn't transactional, it's emotional. It comes from a place inside him where love has already taken root, where your needs have found a place alongside his own. In Jungian terms, this is when the boundaries between self and other begin to soften, not in an unhealthy way, but in a conscious merging of two inner worlds. It's not about losing himself in you, but rather integrating the care he feels for you into the structure of his life. These moments, small, quiet, consistent, are where mature love lives, and yet they are often overlooked, especially in a world that teaches us to search for words first. We're conditioned to wait for the phrase, "I love you," as the ultimate confirmation, but sometimes those words come late, not because the love isn't real, but because it's too real to be rushed. That's why it's so important not to pressure him to say it before he's ready. Don't measure his love by how quickly he speaks it. Measure it by how deeply he lives it. Watch how he moves through your world. how he holds space for your needs, how he puts in effort when no one's watching. These are the signs of someone whose love is rooted not in performance, but in presence. And while you're watching him, watch yourself too. Because real love isn't just about being wanted, it's about building something conscious, something mutual, something whole. Ask yourself, are you drawn to him from a place of fullness, or are you hoping his love will fill a space you haven't yet tended to within yourself? Jung always emphasized the importance of self-awareness in relationships, reminding us that unconscious wounds often choose our partners for us until we become conscious enough to choose differently. So let love unfold in its own time. Let it speak through small things. Let it prove itself not in grand statements, but in the quiet sacrifices that ask for nothing. Because in the end, the deepest kind of love doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It stays, it gives, and it transforms you slowly, from the inside out. And so, we've reached the end of this journey into the quiet language of love. If there's one truth to carry with you, it's this: real love often whispers before it speaks. It may not come dressed in grand declarations or dramatic gestures, but it reveals itself in the smallest things. In the glance he didn't mean for you to catch, in the silent effort he made to ease your day, in the way he remembers the parts of you even you sometimes forget. Carl Jung reminded us that the unconscious does not lie. It holds the truths we're not yet ready to say out loud, and when it comes to love, it often speaks first, through subtle action, emotional presence, and quiet sacrifice. So if you're wondering whether he truly loves you, don't just listen to what he says. Watch what he does. Words can be delayed, feelings can be buried, but the unconscious? It always finds a way through. Let yourself see clearly. Be conscious, not just of him, but of yourself. Are you looking for love to prove something, or are you ready to recognize it in its most honest, unpolished form? The kind that grows slowly, deeply, and without a script. Because in the end, the love that matters most isn't the one that shouts, it's the one that shows up, again and again, without needing applause. Real love doesn't hide, it shows up, in the smallest, quietest ways.